Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Castro, and I am a counselor here at Edens, and I'm so grateful and thankful to each of you for joining us this evening for our May Wellness webinar. Today, we will be talking about a DBT skill, which is referred to as mindfulness. And I'm sure many people have probably heard about this as a buzzword going around on social media, which I love that people are talking about it. I believe Marcus will be dropping some information in the chat for you all. Let's see, is it there? Yes. Okay, so just so everyone knows, this is a recorded webinar, and it will be uploaded to YouTube later. And so we just want to protect your privacy. So in the event that you would like to have your cameras off, that is okay. You're also welcome to keep on if you'd like. And yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that. We'll just go ahead and get started. So a little bit about today. I am going to go over why this DBT skill is so important. And so what I mean by that is that I may take a little bit to get to like the actual skill that we're going to be working on, but I really want to just give you like the meat of why this is like helpful and all. So that's what I'll be doing today. So every month, Edens hosts these monthly webinars, and so just make sure you're on the lookout for next time around. A little bit of background about me. Again, my name is Jennifer Castro. I am a licensed master of social work, and I currently host I facilitate the middle school DBT group for here at Edens. So for anybody in middle school, in case anybody has middle schoolers who you think could benefit from that, we often talk about all the DBT skills, so mindfulness is just one of them. And I'd like to talk a little bit about what DBT is. So DBT is, let's see. DBT, so Dialectical Behavioral Therapy is what DBT stands for. And dialectical means that more than one thing can be true at a time. So when we go in and do a deep dive on mindfulness today, we'll talk about how we can hold space for mindfulness in our lives, even when life can be chaotic and stressful and kind of, I don't know, difficult to manage sometimes, if you will. And so I guess if you'd like to drop a emoji on how you're feeling today, that would be cool, just so we know how stressful or happy life might be for you in this moment. So, okay. I think before we begin, I am going to do a mindfulness skill now. I was actually planning to do it a little bit later, but I'd like to just start us off. And one of the things that I will share with you is that it's going to feel a little weird and maybe a little bit uncomfortable at first. And the reason for that is that mindfulness takes a lot of practice to be comfortable with. It is something that often we neglect in our very busy hustle and bustle culture. And so oftentimes, as many of you know, we are ripping and running throughout the day. Maybe you have children, maybe you have, a very demanding job, maybe you have multiple jobs, or maybe you just find life to be sometimes a little bit stressful, as it sometimes is. So in order to get us started, I am going to do a grounding technique, and it is something that we do to get back into our senses, our five senses. So if you remember, our five senses are hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, and the sense of smell. And so with this being said, I would like everyone to scan your surroundings, and I'm going to take a little bit of time. It's going to also slow me down a bit. And so again, it might seem a little fluffy, or it might seem a little bit like, why are we doing this at first? And that's a normal response. That's like a natural, normal response that many people have. So I'd like to hold space, and I'd like for you guys to hold space for those feelings without any judgment. Anytime you feel your mind wandering away, like just gently bring it back and remind yourself, like, it's okay to be in this space, and we'll do it together. Okay, so I'm going to give everyone a couple of, maybe a minute or so to, if you have maybe a couple of things that you can smell nearby, especially if they're pleasant, like candles or flowers or whatever you might have nearby. It could be like your favorite blanket or something. And also if you could grab something that you can taste. And if you don't have any of those things nearby, that's also okay. You don't necessarily need them, because you can do and practice mindfulness anywhere, at any time, and at any place. But I will give 1 minute to see if, people want to grab that. I also want to let everyone know that at the end of this conversation, we will have space for questions. And so we'll save about 15 minutes for questions and answers at the end. Also, I will be providing in the chat these mindfulness exercises that I found. There's 73 ways to practice the technique. I think they were great. So I'll leave them in the chat, and you guys can save it, bookmark it. Okay. Okay, so I think that was about a minute. Again, if you don't have anything nearby, that's okay. But we are going to start this webinar off with a mindfulness exercise. This exercise is called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it is connecting with your 5 senses. And first things first, we are going to stop, put our feet on the floor, and reconnect with our bodies. We're going to just be mindful of the space that we are in this moment. And I would like to ask each of you to take a look around and observe where you are. Most of you are probably at home. So if you're in your bedroom or you're in your living room or wherever you are, I just want you to take a look around and just notice where you are and what's around you. And then I would like for you to select 5 items in the room. And I want you to think about their color, their texture, their shapes, what you notice about them. Perhaps you have your favorite plant nearby. I want you to think about what that plant might elicit for you. Or maybe you might see a painting that you love, some artwork from your children. Maybe you see a photo of someone that you love and they are near and dear to your heart. Maybe you see something that you've been working really hard on. Maybe you see your reflection, and if you do, smile to yourself. But really hold space and really take it in. Take it in for each item. I'm even looking around my space right now. Okay. Next, we'll be moving on to 4 things you can touch. And when you are touching them, I want you to really touch them. So, for example, I have this blanket here, and I'm going to feel, what it feels like. The texture, is it fluffy? Is it soft? Is it rough? Is it cold? Is it hot? Think about what it's doing for your senses, for your sense of touch. Some people will say, oh, I don't have anything nearby, so they'll touch their hair or maybe their leg. And if you touch a part of your body, remember to say thank you to it. As you do these things, again, the whole point of this exercise is to really connect to your surroundings, connect and be present with your body, and to slow down a bit. Next, we will be thinking about 3 things we can hear. And for this one, it requires being still and really listening. So sometimes you might hear things automatically because maybe you're in a noisy environment, and that would be lovely. And sometimes if you're in a quiet environment, you have to be very, very, very still because you might hear the air conditioner, you might hear cars outside, you could hear a train passing by. And we're just sending gratitude to this moment of being able to hear. Perhaps you hear just the sound of my voice, but I want you to think outside of my voice and outside of yourself, what are some things you can hear? Okay, so the next thing we have is connecting to our sense of smell. And so this is where, if you have that candle, if you have, your fluffy blanket that smells so great, we're thinking about things that elicit joy, but it doesn't have to be. It can also be whatever is nearby. Some people love the smell of, cooking or, their favorite tea. So I'm going to be really curious to hear what some of the things you guys used in this. And as you're smelling it, I really want you to take it in and just give gratitude for your sense of smell and just be able to say thank you to that. And again, if you have any judgmental thoughts about it, it's okay. Let it pass and stay present. And lastly, we have taste. So if you can taste, I apologize, if you can taste something, whatever it is that you have near you, and for some, you may not have much, and that's okay. Even if you have water nearby, you can use that. But if you have like a chocolate or a mint, or maybe, something that you enjoy, that would be lovely. And as we do that, we're also showing gratitude to our sense of taste. But I want you to savor in that moment for just a bit, because life can be super busy and we have a ton of other responsibilities. But in this moment, we're just sitting here and being present. And now, if you are done, I would love for you to do a couple of deep breaths. So just take a deep breath in and hold it and let it go. And when you let it go, I want you to just empty your belly and really just think of releasing the worries from the day away. So we'll do it again a couple more times. Deep breath in, hold, and release. Last one. Deep breath in. Hold, release. Thank you, guys. Thank you for participating in that. I hope that some of you were able to do it the whole way through, and I hope that it was helpful for you. I will be honest that the first 20 times, I don't know how many times, but a lot of times that I did it, it really didn't feel very good. But that is something we'll be talking about today, that these skills are really like muscles that you need to build over time. And so they definitely take a lot of practice. So practice, practice, practice. Like now when I do that, it really is helpful. But I mean, there was a time when it didn't feel like that for sure. So, but I do hope that some of you felt that it was helpful. And now we will move forward. So, when we're thinking about mindfulness skills, we're really taking into consideration like what they teach us. And essentially what it means is that, or what they're used for, is to increase, as you might have heard me mention throughout that practice, was to not judge yourself or not judge the thoughts that come up. So we're really practicing non-judgmental awareness of our present moment experiences. And so when we're able to slow down and experience the present moment, we're able to reduce our stress, pain, suffering, and increase capacity for pleasure and joy. So there really is something to be said for stopping and smelling the roses. But there's lots of studies that have showed when we're able to use these skills and really put them into practice on a daily basis and do it over and over again, it's really interesting how it really can release tension in the body, how it can decrease pain for people who suffer from chronic pain, and really just help in stress reduction. So there really is something to be said for these, so bear with us. So mindfulness is intentionally being aware of your present moment. And what that means is being aware of the thoughts that come up, being aware of the feelings and the physical sensations. And when I say physical sensations, I really mean like just do kind of a body scan when you do this type of exercise or all the other exercises, kind of things that we'll be talking about in what's to come. And so, because for some people might hold tension in their jaw, some might hold it in their shoulders, maybe their neck. Some might just have like chronic pain in lower back or maybe your knees or something like that. And so when you're doing a body scan, one of the best things you can do for yourself is notice where you're holding your tension. And when you do that, then you can draw awareness to it. And awareness is the first step in being able to like make it subside, if you will. So pay attention to your physical sensations and also think about the thoughts and feelings that pop up. So you might have thoughts that, let's say you're going throughout your day, it's busy and you're multitasking and things. And so you might, some thoughts may just be very practical. They might just be like, oh my gosh, I still have XYZ to do. I still have to pick up the kids, and I have to buy groceries, and I have to do whatever it is that you might have on your to-do list. Or you might be a student and you might say, oh, I have 4 assignments that are due and I'm not sure how to get them done. And so what I've often seen, or what I've often heard, especially, in talking to several different populations of people, like just anyone, right, is that I don't have the time. That's normally what I hear. I don't have the time for that. And it's interesting because I think we can often be, especially when you're doing city life, right? If you're here in Houston, or maybe you're not, but when you're doing these things, it can be really difficult to say, how can I slow down in such a busy world? And yet when we're able to slow down, that is literally when we're able to probably do some of our best work. So it really makes the most sense to be able to, and yet it can be pretty challenging. So when you're thinking about these thoughts and feelings, so feelings, I always like to share with people that we have 5 core feelings, and that is fear, joy, anger, guilt, and sadness. And within those feelings, there's lots of other things that pop up. But when these things are with us, or all we need to do is take notice to them, and just don't judge it. And also, like, don't reject the moment. Sometimes we can plan ahead. We might be really, really like planners, and I got to have a certain outcome. So if we can detach ourselves from certain outcomes, or if we can, really just be present, like don't worry about the past, don't worry about the future, just be present in this moment. So mindfulness, as I mentioned earlier, can be practiced anywhere or anytime. And so what does this look like in real life, right? Like, what does it look like on a day-to-day basis? I would say what it looks like is, because it can be practiced anywhere and at any time, and in any place, it can literally be anything. You can be in your car, and as I mentioned, I have a handout where it'll have several lists of exercises like I just did. But it could just be, staying centered or being grounded in your moment, taking deep breaths, things like that. And then in addition, there are also mindfulness movements that we can do. And so some of them would be things that we are probably all super familiar with, at least in terms of hearing about them. One of them is my fan favorite, is dance. And so if we're dancing, we are able to be connected to our body, and oftentimes we're able to slow down time and kind of just forget about everything else in that moment. So I wonder if you guys can, in the chat, maybe drop like emojis. I'm like an emoji person, I don't know. But if you can drop some emojis of your favorite mindfulness movement exercises, like things that you like to do, activities of movements. But another would be listening to music, yoga, martial arts, walking, biking. Really, I think when you're doing anything in nature, you're connecting. So it could be gardening, it could be swimming, it could be any type of thing that is getting you to move and slow down. Because all of those things take practice, right? So in some ways you have to slow down for that. Additionally, we have things like meditation. And so with all of these things, the goal is focusing, focus on one thing at a time, focus on just the activity you're doing, focus your mind, let go of outcomes, let go of the need to control things, which can be, something that we all tend to want to do. We want to control, like, well, what's next? Like we keep it going kind of thing. And so I think that is part of the human experience, and I definitely want to normalize that for everyone. But yeah, so meditation. Also, I love that part of this is just centered prayer. And so I don't know how many people practice prayer on a daily basis or on a regular basis, but I think many people might have grown up, in places and spaces where there was prayer. But this could also just be like interior silence. So if you're just sitting without, background noise from the television, or without distractions from your phone, we could also consider that as a mindfulness practice. And I would even argue that, especially in today's day and age, where we're all super connected to our devices, that those types of quiet time is really beneficial to regulating our nervous system and just helping our brain, decompress and whatnot. So there's that piece. But if you are engaging in a centered prayer, what that means is selecting a word or maybe a theme. And for some people that can look like a certain request that they may be bringing to the table, or something like that. But if you are able to select a word or theme and you're able to sit with that for a little bit, it really does help to bring your mind back when it starts to wander, because that is super common. And so that's another thing I just want to normalize, that it's really, really common for us to just like kind of wander off, because that's just how it is sometimes. So if we were to start practicing mindfulness on a very regular basis, there are certain types of emotional states of mind that we would encounter. And the first that we have on the table is what we call reasonable mind. I wonder if you guys might have heard of wise mind. If you have, let's just put yes or no in the comments. If you know, or you think you might know what wise mind is. But wise mind is what we strive for. It is essentially very much like intuition, if you will. But it really helps us to stay centered and balanced and brings harmony, and it's the inherent wisdom that we each have. And then we have emotional mind. So reasonable mind is very logic based. It is very attached to outcomes and based off of thoughts and reason. And it's that little voice inside your head that when you are working through a problem, is offering solutions. It is, it's the one that says we can't do that. I don't know if you guys have seen that it's like Yeti, what is it? Like a Yeti cartoon. It's like a cartoon with like a brain and then a heart. And they have like super cute little skits in them. I wonder if you guys have seen that, but if you have, you will know automatically what I'm talking about. It's super adorable. And so I would say reasonable mind would be the brain, and your emotional mind would be heart. It's very heart-centered. It can be impulsive and controlled by your feelings and urges. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing, but it's kind of your more like when you're getting into a little, spat with your spouse or your partner, and you're like, oh, maybe your reasonable mind is like, you shouldn't say that, but then your emotional mind is like, nope, we're going for it. That's kind of what that's like. So we have reasonable mind and emotional mind. And when we are able to hold space for both, when we're able to kind of like slow down, and when we're able to bring reason in and logic with our emotions, then we kind of meet in the middle and we find our wise mind. And so, yeah, I love wise mind, because I think when I think of wise mind, I think, at least for myself, when I think that I'm working in my wise mind, I think that I'm walking my middle path. And so middle path is another skill that we teach in DBT. And it's really all about, kind of what I mentioned earlier, that two things can be true at once. And we kind of hold space for all of those pieces of it with no judgment, and just really kind of finding within us and connecting back to that piece of us what the wisest choice would be for ourselves. What is the healthiest way I can react or behave or show up in this situation? Yeah. So I read this thing, and it was talking about wise mind, and it was like, the thing about wise mind is that you really have to tune into it. And I would agree with that, because I often think that I have a strong inner voice where I can kind of sometimes just have that deep-seated knowing. And then it's also true that I could very easily ignore it, because my logical brain is like, no, but that doesn't make sense, even though intuitively I might know, or my wise mind might know. And so I also wonder how many of you have experienced something like that. But yes, so let's see, wise mind. Yes. So, oh yes, that was the thing I was thinking about. It was about the radio. So it's a story, and really, I don't know all the details of the story, but it's kind of like thinking about how, I don't know how many people can resonate with this, but way back in the day, we used to have radios that you had to kind of tune, you had to kind of turn the dial to find the right radio station. And I would say finding your wise mind can often be like that. Once you find it, you just know that's it, that's the station. But sometimes you can get some static, and sometimes you can just lose track a little bit, and it's just helpful to recenter when that happens, and try to, again, hold no judgment to yourself on that, because that's just super normal. Well, I apologize, because that is supposed to say something other than I right there, but this is really talking about mindfulness, how we would actually use this. So you might be saying at this point, okay, Jen, I get you, it's important, and I hear you, but how, and what would I even be doing if I were using this on a daily basis, and what would this look like in real life? And so to that, I would say we would observe so let's say you're in the car, it's stressful, you're in traffic, you're on 610 traffic in the Galleria, and it's just terrible. and there are no words for that. But if we were able to slow down, and we were able to, let's say you can't go anywhere anyway because you're just stuck in traffic, being able to recenter ourselves and observe and just notice the experience, again, with no judgment. Sure, you may be upset, but again, you're just kind of wordless watching. You can, again, use all 5 of your senses in that moment. Don't push away thoughts and feelings, and feel them and acknowledge them. And so that was kind of like a silly, kind of suggestion, or maybe scenario, if you will. But I especially mean this, if you are dealing with things at home, right? Or you're dealing with things at work, or you're dealing with interpersonal relationship stuff. Because sometimes observing what might be happening can be painful, and it can be painful to acknowledge these things. But if you, again, when we're thinking about mindfulness, really all we're thinking about is just finding our wise mind, finding our center, and slowing down a bit, which can really help when, especially in interpersonal relationships, when there might be more of, impulsive responses, if you will. Also, you would describe. So describe, you can label them. You can, what you observe with words, you can describe this to yourself out loud or internally. And you always want to stick with facts, and so not thoughts or judgments. And so what does that mean? Facts is just knowing like the concrete evidence. Thoughts can be well, my partner did XYZ and therefore it must mean this, right? Like that's just a thought. It's not a fact. So you want to stick with facts in this case. And then you would participate. So if you're using mindfulness and you're doing this in your day-to-day life, you want to kind of fully throw yourself into that moment. So like in that moment, you're in the zone. You are giving your whole attention to being mindful. It can be the mindfulness thing, like maybe if you're doing like a movement exercise, that could be much easier to throw yourself into because it's a physical thing, or maybe it's meditation. And so you're like physically like being still. But if you're out and about, you know, and you need to do some grounding in that moment, giving yourself the grace and the space to fully throw yourself into that moment would be important. So like, how do you do this? Okay. So one mindfully, it just essentially means that part of being mindful means that the past is over and it no longer exists for us. That can be sometimes hurtful. Sometimes things from our past may have been hurtful, but we can't ruminate about it when we're being mindful, right? So you can give yourself, you know, if you're going through something really heavy, you can give yourself 10 minutes to be mindful, and then you can think about the past if you need. But in this 10 minutes, you're going to just fully throw yourself into the moment and let go of the past and not be attached to an outcome in the future. And I love that one of the things we say in DBT is that the pain for the present moment is enough. Because if you think about it, even if you're having a wonderful day, there is probably still things going on, maybe not in your life, but around you, that is enough pain. So we don't need to worry about the pain of the past or stress about the future. All we have to do is just recenter ourselves and be in the moment for here and now. Lastly, you want to act effectively. And so again, the common theme here is don't judge yourself and do what works for you. So maybe the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is like, I can't do that, Jen. That just doesn't resonate with me. But maybe breathing does, or maybe finding an app on your phone that has, you know, like I know Calm is like a big one that people use, and it has like meditation, guided meditations and things like that, or maybe prayer is for you. So just do what works for you. And I would also say, you know, practice other things, even if they seem a little silly at first. Lastly, avoid multitasking. So your time for mindfulness is not a time for you to worry about doing other things. It's just that moment for you in that moment. And so, as I mentioned earlier, dialectical means that two things can be true at once. And so we've talked a lot about stress. I think I've already kind of harnessed this. But, you know, just to reiterate it, we do often neglect ourselves due to stress, and we all have a ton of responsibilities. And so I guess this whole part is just to remind yourself that you can find joy in the midst of it. And by doing so, when you find your centeredness, when you are able to connect to your wise mind, you can like be stressed and take some time for yourself, is what I'm saying in this moment. And if some of this sounds like super familiar, it's probably because the practice of mindfulness is a timeless practice. It's been practiced for psychological, emotional, spiritual, or even medical reasons. The act of mindfulness originally stems from spiritual and contemplative practices across all types of cultures, regions, and times. And what I love about this is that provides us with a sense of connection. And what I mean by that is that inherent truth just makes it makes it so that everyone can do it, and everyone across the span of time has been doing this. And so when you see these buzzwords on social media or just online, I mean, really what you want to think of is like, oh, I know that. I've already heard of that. I've already done that. I already do this in some parts of my life. And so I want you to give yourself some applause in that way. And when we are mindful, we are able to grow in wisdom. We're able to experience freedom by letting things go. Again, those are the attachments, right? We're able to be like, okay, there's a skill, and it's really all about being a Teflon pan. So if you think about a Teflon pan, you just like, no matter what you put on it, it just kind of slides off. Like if you were to just, put something on it, just slide right off. And that's kind of like what we should hope for in terms of letting things go, just letting whatever comes in that moment slide right off of you, and just staying centered and present, and focusing on the here and now. Again, by doing so, we can really focus on love and compassion. And that is just my favorite part of all of this, because by engaging in mindfulness, we allow space in our lives for not only like others, but for ourselves. And I would argue that, at least from what I see often, is that to love yourself and to show self-compassion can be very difficult. So I love that by being mindful, we are honoring our highest self. We're honoring our mind, body, spirit, soul. And we're able to really truly give ourselves time and space to just be. And when we're able to do that, I just think we're able to show ourselves some self-compassion, and we need a little bit more of that. So that is that. Again, earlier I mentioned that all of this takes practice. And so just 3 key points whenever you're practicing these things in the car, you're practicing them at home, you're practicing them at work, you're practicing them when your kids are coming and you're like, oh my gosh, it's too much. We are going to identify and focus on one thing at a time. Bring your attention to the object of focus. And when your attention wanders, gently bring it back to focus without judgment. And do that over and over and over again until it just feels normal. And that is really about it. We are going to take some questions here now. Again, I just want to reiterate that I am a DBT facilitator for middle schoolers here at Edens. And so if any of you have middle schoolers that you think could benefit from DBT, and DBT is really something we use for people who experience big emotions. And so it really helps with emotion regulation, and really helps to connect to wise mind, middle path. Those are all things that we talk about in DBT. So it's not just mindfulness. There's like a ton of other skills that come along with it that have a little bit more, a little bit more more skill-based, if you will. And so the idea is to just put tools in your tool belt to help you navigate interpersonal relationships and navigate life. Yeah, I just want you guys to know that I also specialize in trauma and family therapy, and I do have 12 years of experience working in the mental health field. I've been working in a variety of different settings, in inpatient, residential, step down, PHP, all of that. And now I am so happy to be here at Edens, and it's just been great. So thank you guys for joining us today. If you have or need any more information, you are welcome to take this number down and give us a call. We would be happy to hear from you. And that is it. I am going to place this in the chat. And I hope you guys really find it helpful. And that is it. I'm going to bring my gallery screen up so we can take some questions. I don't know how to do that, but Marcus, do you know how to do that?
Hey, Jen, if you're trying to bring up the chat, just go down to the bottom of your Zoom screen, and there's a whole bunch of options, and you can just click on chat.
Yes, I did. Okay, so I put that in the chat. It is there. But I can't see everyone, so I can't see if there's any hands up.
Yeah, I don't see any hands up.
Okay. Okay. Well, if there are no questions, and that does conclude our time for the evening. If you also have questions you want to put in the chat, that's also okay. Oh yes, we also do facilitate DBT skills group for high school and older age teenagers and adults as well. So I'm sorry, I did forget about that. Yes, we do. C asked earlier, can it be an animal? Like, I'm assuming if it could be an animal for touch or something, or maybe that you're holding space. Yes, absolutely. I think that a lot of people use animals as things to like focus on. Touch, hug is a really great one. Let's see. Oh, yes. Yeah, you're welcome, C. Yeah, no, that was a great question. Puppies and, well, I mean, any animal is great, but I think puppies, are wonderful. Oh, yes, you're so welcome. I am glad that it was helpful. You guys are so welcome. I enjoyed being here with you guys. How does applying DBT differ between teenagers and senior citizens? I would say there's not a ton of difference. Really, we use DBT as has been there's been a lot of research on it, and so it's pretty standard across the board. I think for teens, there's just maybe a little bit less information when we're giving information about why the skills are important. So maybe if you could think about it just the same as any type of schooling that you'd have, like, of course, the older you get, the more you kind of have a little bit to work with, like in terms of dialogue and things like that. But for the most part, it doesn't differ. DBT can be used for any age group. C says that they will practice more mindfulness, and I hope that everyone does. You are very welcome. I still see some people on, so I don't know. I wonder if we have like 10 minutes left. Should we do another mindfulness exercise? We will. All right. So for anybody who's left, if you don't have any questions, then we will do another exercise. And this has been one of my favorite ones here lately. It is, let me hide my, it is showing gratitude to our bodies. And so this time around, I'm going to ask you guys again to plant your feet on the ground and sit in your chair upright. So give your body full attention. And I want you to kind of like wiggle around, let yourself feel the sensations of your body. Just again, notice where you're feeling any tension, where you're feeling any kind of like stress or anything, because you want to give that part of your body a little bit more self-compassion. All right, so we're going to start from the top of our heads, and we're going to do a body scan. So you're scanning your whole body and you're thinking about each part of your body, again, paying attention to each part, right? Each piece of you. Today, I want us to say a gratitude to, to the hair on our, it sounds silly, I know, but you're going to stick with me, right? Okay. So we're saying gratitude to our hair for keeping our heads warm. We're going to say thank you to our minds for all the vast and powerful ways it helps us throughout the day. Think about all of the things that we take for granted, about how our brains, like these big brains, just work for us, and they do so many amazing things. And oftentimes we are so hard on ourselves. So in this moment, we're just saying thank you. Thank you for all that you do for me. We can say thank you to our eyes for all the beautiful things we see. That can be your pet. If your pet brings you a lot of joy, perhaps it's your family if they bring you joy. Maybe it's the trees outside, or maybe it is, flowers that you might see, or perhaps it is, a piece of art that you love. But all of these beautiful things that we see on a daily basis and we just tend to sometimes overlook. We're going to say thank you to that. Let us say thank you for our hearing. You guys were able to hear me today, so I would like to say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to hear wonderful music and hear the laughter of, our favorite friend. And thank you for all of those beautiful sounds that we hear on a daily basis that we often take for granted. Let's think about our nose and all of the wonderful smells we smell throughout the day. Say thank you for the gift of smell. Perhaps you get to smell chocolate, or maybe you get to smell, eucalyptus. That's one of my favorites. Maybe you get to smell your mom's favorite dish that you love, or something like that. Maybe it's the smell of your old, home, or your favorite blanket. Let us say thank you for the ability to taste all the wonderful foods we get to have. If you're here in Houston, we have so many wonderful places to go eat, and how lovely is it that we get to experience all these, different tastes, get to taste all kinds of different, spicy, sweet, sour, all of that goodness. So thank you for that. If you're holding any tension in your jaw or in your neck or shoulders, I really want you to kind of just, work it out, and say thank you just to your body as a whole. I like to say thank you for my arms because I'm a hugger. And so I really love being able to just hug people. And so I like to say thank you to my arms for that reason. But also, I love a fork, right? So thank you to my hands. Say thank you for all the parts of you that you normally forget about and might neglect. Let us say thank you to our hearts for leading us and guiding us, for the loving spaces that we hold for our family and friends, and for each part of us that we get to share with others. Thank you. And let us just say thank you to all other parts. We have our bellies that we get to fill with air and do our deep breathing with, and also just for everything that does for us, right? Thank you to our legs. I like to say thank you for my legs, for getting me all the places that I go on a daily basis. And I even like to say thank you to my feet, because that means that we can jump and run and do all the fun things that we used to do, play sports, all that good stuff. So it's, in this case, it's really not just about your senses. It is really about getting connected. And for you there at home, I want you to just touch each part of your body, that especially you might feel like sometimes is not enough. And I just want you to say thank you. And then after you're done and you're fully showing gratitude to yourself, I just want you to say thank you to your being. And I would also like to say thank you to each of you for participating in that and for showing yourself some love and kindness today. And that is also another thing you can do on a daily basis. And now you can just take a couple deep breaths. We did some good work together today. Thank you. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much. If you need any more information, please feel free to reach out. We are so grateful for you today, and we will have another wellness webinar in June, so be on the lookout for that. And I think that is the end of this. So thank you all. Have a good night.